So the advantages of open access publishing as such is you have a free access to the content, and it is, because I like that smart very much, it helps you to support a smart education of your students. You can provide, or you can just send them a link to the material they should read, and they can do it. And I think there are also no excuses anymore that the library was closed or whatever was closed. So, but they can do it also at home in their, at their kitchen table if they want. It gives you increased visibility of the creators who have published open access, so the credit goes directly back to the creators of the content, and something which they can also then go with a number of downloads or with a number of citations to go back to their administration and can tell them, thanks, you paid me for carrying out good research and for good teaching, and here are the results. What is also possible in this model is that you find new friends you would have never thought about. So if your research ends up in a book or in a journal in a library, the library will not report back to you who has used it and where it was used. So maybe you can find a missing link to your research in South Korea in a laboratory which you would have never expected. And if you see that the number of downloads is in, I don't know, in this very particular university in South Korea, well, you better turn to them and say whether you can work together in the future. So all of that would be invisible in traditional publishing. Citations is the currency academics are paid in. And I had the honor to be invited to a talk in Ankara, also by the Smart University Foundation. And we had an interesting discussion on impact factors and the importance of impact factors. And I claimed that impact factors is a thing of the past, because it gives you nothing more than the average download in a journal in 2 years. But it never tells you anything about the excellency of an author who has published in this journal or in this book, because it doesn't go directly back to that person, but it only refers back to the excellency of the journal. And therefore, I also think, or I claim that this is a thing of the past, because the digital age enables you to be much more precise, and you can drill it down to the person who has brought to you the high citation. The unrestricted distribution is clear because it's not hidden behind a paywall, because it had already been published and it had already been paid for by somebody, sometimes a foundation, sometimes a university, sometimes the industry, but once it is paid, it is available for everybody. And then I think this is a very important point for the Smart University Foundation, because the Smart University Foundation tries to enable universities to get suddenly on the table. You become visible. So the interesting example Bassem has mentioned of the university in Malaysia, they 100% carry out a very, very important work to their students, but also to community. And maybe, as I said, there is a missing link in this university. Somebody carries out as a research or as a teacher, and he will never, ever find somebody he or she can work with in Istanbul. But so when a research is important and gets seen and cited very often, then it suddenly becomes visible, and then suddenly these institutions has a standing, and we don't always, it is not so important to point to the Harvards and the MITs or the Oxfords and the Cambridge anymore. But I think it is more of an empowerment of the universities, of the smaller universities, which do an incredible important work, and a work which they can carry out to retain more attention, or which they can then freely share. So why it is so, or what the difference makes, I have explained into this slide. So an open access book gets 50 times more cited than something which is behind a wall. That means you're seen 50 times more than if you would end up on a shelf in a hidden library. And they are 7 times more downloaded than in an open access book or in an open access publication as such. And it is not, while the library could never ever give you a number how often it was read, because you just check out the publication and then you sit at the table, read it, but nobody ever registers the name, nor does somebody report the name back to the publisher or to your administration. And so this is a number from last year. So we had 146 million visits to our website. And as I said, I repeat, measuring in a measurable way. So this is not like fake downloads, but it is downloads which we can report back to the authors, and which we can report back to the institutions.